with filling you in a little bit on who they are and why they're here. But most of you, when I mention the name, will know Dan Flowers and his involvement at the Akron-Canton Foodbank, and then his assistant, Katie Carver Reed. And they are a dynamic tandem, and they've got an incredible staff there. And I know they've got a wonderful presentation that they'll be sharing with us later. But I want to know offhand, with this being a busy summer season, if we happen to have, do we happen to have any Rotary ambassadors? Miss Julie.
Okay. Hi.
Everyone, over the weekend, I attended my first Pets Conference steering committee meeting in Columbus. This is where all of the DG line works on the All Ohio Pets, which is President-elect Training Seminar. And that's held once a year in the Columbus area, and it will be again in 2022. Hopefully, we had to skip last year, but it will be for Linda. She'll be down at the Renaissance Hotel, March 11th and 12th, I believe. She would know exactly when that is. But the project this year, and that was just released Saturday, is it's myveryownblanket.org, and you can go online and pay $10 and get a kit to make a blanket, or we're going to come up with a list of blankets that fit into what their criteria is and have a Amazon wish list that we're going to share with our district clubs. And you can just order online. They'll come to me, and then we'll sew on. I'm going to solicit some assistance on this because I'm not the best seamstress. We'll sew on a little label that basically says, made with love because of this project, and then Rotary logo will be on it, and then there's a place you can write with a laundry marker your name that you made the blanket for a child, and those will be distributed right here in our area. So we'll be looking at forging partnerships with Akron Children's Hospital or Summit County Children's Services, or any organizations that might have a need to receive these blankets for children. So watch for that to be coming. There is also a contest involved, as you know there should be, and we will see district in Ohio has the most blankets donated. So watch for that to come soon. So that's all for today.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. And what year will you be stepping in as district governor?
So I will be the district governor in 2023, 2024. So my induction will be in July of 2023. So we'll be at the Rotary camp. They've already reserved the time for me.
Fantastic. And if anybody knows Julie, Julie is involved in just about everything in the city. And this is going to continue the tradition of rich leadership that comes out of this club with how many district governors we've had. So congratulations on that. Do we have any other Rotary ambassadors?
Yeah, President Bowie.
Yes, Mr. Thane.
So on Sunday, I went out and joined the Talmadge Rotary Club for their annual golf outing. Had a real good time. I think a lot of you know my dad, Chip, is a member of Talmadge Rotary. And then fun fact, my next door neighbors are the two immediate past presidents of Talmadge Rotary, Dr. Sheriff Kirkich and Amanda Kirkich. I know Pat O'Neill knows them pretty well. We dodged rainstorms, raised some money for their club. They're a small club, but they're very, very loyal, very, very good. And they're already asking about Chili Open, which I thought was cool.
Fantastic. How'd you shoot, by the way?
We did not shoot well. We had fun though.
Okay. Well, hey, that's what counts. Anyone else as a Rotary ambassador? Okay. Mr. David Hall is our greeter today. And David, do we have any guests joining us besides our speakers?
Yeah, besides the speakers, I do believe Amanda Barna. I believe she is a guest. Amanda, would you like to unmute and say hello?
Hello, I'm actually a past Rotary member, but I'm a guest today to hear Katie speak. Katie was a classmate of mine in leadership, class 37.
Very good. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then I see Jonna's iPad. I'm not sure if Jonna's a guest or a member.
No, Jonna is she's a member of our club. And actually, that's a perfect segue unless you see any other guests.
No.
Do you see?
I
Okay.
do not. I think that was it.
Jonna is with us today because we have the privilege in our Rotary History Minute. We're going to be talking about her father. And Jack Herrig is going to be sharing about him here in a second. But I wanted to say this, you know, for each and every one of us, we're all part of a bigger story. And in your family, you're part of the bigger continuing story. And the same thing holds true in mine. And when we look at a club like ours, it's got a history of, I think now 107 years. It's a pretty rich history. And for instance, Thane just shared about being a Rotary ambassador. I believe Mr. Thane Billow is a 5th generation Rotarian. Is that correct, Thane?
Yep, that is President Bowie.
Yeah. So we're all part of this wonderful bigger story. And by taking a minute every week and talking a little bit about who came before us, it kind of fills in for us, you know, who we're following and continuing on the wonderful theme of being able to impact this community. And then also to be able to reach and impact the world. So, and Jack, if you know Jack Herrig and you know Vivian, his dear bride of almost 70 years, they are very much lovers of history. And so I asked Jack if he would share our Rotary History Minute this morning.
Well, the reason that President Bowie asked me to do this was to prove two things. One, that we have a rich history of Rotary work, and that we need volunteers to help us with this history project. And any of you that are interested in history and the history of the Rotary Club of Akron, if you'd let Steve know or myself, and the first one to volunteer gets a pound of Diana coffee free. The second thing that he wanted to prove was that you can't do a history 90 seconds in 90 seconds. But today, it's a privilege to present our past president, John Economo, from 1997-98. John was a Rotarian and a friend. His Rotary year was piloted by Bonnie Housley, our district's first female governor. John was a basketball star at Buchtel High and the University of Akron, and he was known as Buckets there. After graduation, he kept in touch with all of the university presidents, especially Luis Perenza. John continued his basketball career in the Army. He became president of Pearl Coffee, which was founded by his father and 3 brothers in 1919. And he continued to pursue the art of roasting coffee. And he passed those talents on to his daughter, Jonna. And today she continues the family traditions with the assistance of Rotarian Liz Campbell. John was philanthropic in nature. He worked not only to touch the lives in Akron, but across the United States and Greece. John's lifelong dream came true when he was unanimously elected national president of the Order of AHEPA, the American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association. John was proud to be a Rotarian and enjoyed being with all of us. Around the United States, Bill Clinton was president. The snowfall in 97-98 was below normal and the temperatures were above normal. Madeleine Albright became the first woman to serve as United States Secretary of State, another first in the leadership of women in the United States. Tiger Woods was the youngest golfer to win the Masters tournament. Deep Blue is a computer that played chess and beat the international champion, Gary, I can't pronounce his name, from Russia. October 27th, there was a mini crash of the stock market The meltdown took the average down to 71.61. For comparison, the morning Dow today was down 0.14% at 35,361. Super Bowl 32, the Denver Broncos, under the leadership of John Elway, beat the Green Bay Packers and Brett Favre 31-24. And sadly, the Cleveland Indians blew it. Around the world, Diana, Princess of Wales, and her companion Dodi Fayed were killed in a terrible automobile crash. In Roslin, Scotland, Dolly, the first cloned animal, was born. In the United States, in 1998, finally, the embassy bombing in Tanzania and Nairobi killed 212 people. And for a lighter note, the Titanic film of 1977 was Titanic, and it was the highest grossing film over $1 billion worldwide. Thank you, President Steve.
Thank you, Jack. And you hear some of that news from 1997, 1998, and you think back and you think, was it that long ago? And yeah, it actually was. And you have to love some of the excerpts there that Jack was sharing with us about Mr. Economo. And I love that nickname that he was given, Buckets, because he had a dead eye from the free throw line, and he just didn't miss. But thank you, Jack. And now our newly inducted Rotarian, Michelle Wilson, is going to bring to us what's going on this week in Akron. So Michelle, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. So starting with what has already just happened this week, on August 28th, it was a tremendous success for the cleanup of Kenmore. It was fun, actually. I was there working alongside Steve and his wife. It was so nice to work with them. And we worked with 100 Black men, well, not a full 100, but with their organization and with Goss Memorial Church and Keep Akron Beautiful. And Tina, who had joined us last week, was there. And it was just really a beautiful day, a little bit hot, but it was a really good to see that how much has changed in Kenmore, and how we were able to just help do our little part too, to clean up their beautiful flower beds and to help to keep it beautiful there. Also on Saturday was the annual cornhole tournament at the Rotary Camp. And if anyone wants to take a second that was there and mention how that went, speak up.
I can speak up. So yes, it was a huge success. We had nearly 40 teams show up. It was a hot day, but people had a great time. We had the Menchie's food truck here. We had a nice small ice cream truck here. Of course, there was beer, but it was so great to have people here on camp safely and having a good time. And so it started, at 9:30 and ended around 2 o'clock. So people had a great time. And so we probably raised almost close to $17,000. So that was wonderful.
Fantastic. Love the Menchises. They're good family friends. So good choice on the food too.
Yeah.
So this Friday coming up, September 3rd, is Rock the Lock at Lock 3. Zozo, the ultimate Led Zeppelin tribute band, will be performing with Lady Lair. Kenmore is hosting their monthly event First Friday. So you can go see all the beautifying that we did. Food, fun, and music along the boulevard. This is a community building event every first Friday of the warmer weather months. They say warmer weather months, but they told me they're also doing it November, December. So I know they still have some First Friday things going on even in the colder months too. This Saturday, September 4th, from 6:30 to 9 will be Brew at the Zoo. Always a great event. And October 16th, from 5 to 7 p.m., a reception will be given by, and I think I saw her on there, Ginny Voino, and I cannot hear her name without hearing one of my very closest friends, Rosemary Raymond, saying, one of my dearest friends, Ginny Voino. So I'm sure Rosemary would be saying that right now whenever her name is said. The drawings comprise imaginative places inspired both by historical reproductions, exploratory sketches, Chinese brush paintings, historical maps, and by Dr. Kiefer's processes of creating her work. She has a fascinating exhibit which she and her late husband, Bruce Kiefer, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, architect and master art photographer, collaborated on. And Ginny, if you wanted to add anything to it, please speak up. I
Okay,
think she's joining us by phone, so she may not be able to too.
yeah.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Michelle. And you know, there are a number of things that I really love about this club, but one of them in particular pertains to your hearts, and to hear about what happened on two fronts on Saturday is really encouraging. And yeah, it was fun in Kenmore, and a lot did get done, and a lot is happening in Kenmore. You'll be hearing more about that as we continue on as a club in the future here. But also too, thank you, Mela, for sharing about the great success of the cornhole tournament. And that's wonderful. And you made it through that heat, but yeah, it was hotter than the Dickens. So, but anyhow, as we move on, is anybody happy today as we talk about happy dollars? Miss Sandy Narragon.
Thanks, Steve. So I am happy that our club has found a way to recognize, that's what this crown is all about. Our club leadership has found a way to recognize us, even though we're not physically together, but this is just a thank you for service that we all continue to do behind the scenes. I believe my recognition was for the work that I do often for the club with surveys and such. So it's a fun way. So I'm grateful. And soon it will be passed on to the next lucky recipient. And I know David Hall took his crown off, but Dave is my counterpart. And he has a crown as well for all of the work that he does, keeping us going. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Dr. McGregor. Welcome back from vacay.
Oh, thank you. So I have 15 happy dollars, 5 for my wonderful family members that hung out with me in Marblehead, Massachusetts, despite an airplane delay caused by the first hurricane. But everybody got out before the second hurricane disrupted travel. And so that's 5, but 10 because I see my good friend Dan Flowers and his associate here. I haven't caught up with you in a long time, Dan, so we're overdue. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rob. And one of our returning Rotarians, Miss Laura Duda. And Laura, I had the privilege of chatting with her earlier today. And it's great to have you back, Laura.
Thanks, Steve. And I've got 15 happy dollars as well. 5 of them, you stole my thunder, Steve, but 5 of them were for the wonderful chat that we had earlier. Made me very happy. And it was a nice warm welcome back to the club. Also 5 for the fact that my husband and I are heading to Florida this weekend for the long weekend to celebrate a milestone birthday of one of his siblings. So we're excited about that. And the third one is I'm always happy to hear from one of my very favorite people in the world, Dan Flowers. So excited about the agenda.
Thank you, Laura. Miss Michelle.
Okay, I have two 5 happy dollars. I don't know how you usually say that, but one of them is to let you guys know that we had another one of our Fulbright scholars that successfully made it out of Afghanistan that I found out on Friday. She actually was, they were able to make it to Albania. So we're so happy that her and her family are safely out. Afghanistan, but we're still keeping so many others in prayers that that have a connection to Akron that we're still in touch with, that we're just praying for their safety and for the safety of their families. But also, again, so glad that Dan Flowers is here. We actually work with an organization in that's doing good things in Kenmore called Forever Our Children, that works with the food bank that distributes to families in Kenmore through the school system and through the sports program. So I'm very involved with that organization too. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I had seen Rich Fry. Are you still there, Rich?
I'm here, yes.
Okay.
I would like to give $5 happy for Diana Coffee. That was a great tribute to John Economo, and I know Jonna, and just want to say that that is great coffee brewed or roasted here right in Akron, Ohio.
Thank you, Rich. Anybody else happy? I'm trying to scan the screen here. I know that Dan, that you'd like to go and make a gift of happy dollars. I don't know if we're set up to receive it the way that you're asking electronically, but I'll let you share what you're happy about, Mr. Dan.
I'm just filled with joy to see so many friends and just participate in this club. You know, when I first moved to Akron in 2003, I joined this Rotary Club with my predecessor, Dan Svita, and had an opportunity to get to know many of you that are still in the club. And Jack, I loved your report just now. You know, in '97, I was working at the Food Bank of Eastern Michigan. That's how long I've been doing this. And just to hear that history. So I'm filled with happiness today, and I just want to send some love to all of you right now. And I look forward to spending some time talking about the food bank. And so Venmo, Steve, is something to get going on, because the teenagers and grandkids and stuff in your life are going to need you to Venmo them some cash pretty soon. So
thank you, my brother.
Yes.
Does anybody else? Oh, Miss Julie, you have something you want to share?
Hi, I'd like to put in $5 to hear from my Leadership Akron Class 37, Resilient 37 classmate, Katie Carver Reed. Some of our class members are on the call this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. And it's always so good to see you, Katie. Thank you so much for being with us today. And Dan, it's always great to see you as well.
Thank you. Well, this will be our last call for any happy dollars. If anyone wants to share, just step on in and it's all yours. Okay, before I introduce Dan and Katie, what I would like to share, we have a couple birthdays coming up here in early September, and Mr. Andrew Grover has a birthday on September the 6th. And our own Mr. Terry Dalton, who is running everything administratively today, has a birthday coming up on September the 7th. So we look forward to that. So right now, I'm just going to go right into the introduction. And really, Dan doesn't need much of an introduction, in that he's blessed with one of those personalities that, for those of us who know him, everybody loves Dan. So they're going to have to do another show. They did that. Everybody Loves Raymond. They're going to have to do Everybody Loves Dan. But Dan Flowers has been president and CEO of the Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank since 2003. During his tenure, the food bank has experienced significant growth, increasing distribution to more than 32.5 million pounds in 2019. Dan led the food bank through a building expansion project and into a newly renovated facility in 2007. Under his leadership, the Akron-Canton Regional Food Bank became the 2012 Food Bank of the Year, the highest recognition achievable by food banks across the nation in the Feeding America network. Most recently, the food bank received its 6th North Coast 99 Award, recognized as one of Northeast Ohio's best places to work. And that says a ton right there. Dan currently resides in Akron with his wife Holly, their 3 children, Andrew, Jonathan, and Mary. He's an avid reader, runner, bow hunter, video gamer, and martial artist holding a black belt in Taekwondo. So you don't want to mess with this guy. And a regular columnist for Smart Business Magazine. But today we get the price of 2 for 1 because he is joined by his assistant, Katie Carver Reed, and she is director of network partners and programs at the Akron-Canton Foodbank. And in her role, she's responsible for the food bank's partnerships with more than 500 hunger relief programs, the food bank's direct service programs, and she oversees government compliance related to all of that wonderful distribution. So on behalf of the Akron Rotary Club, we welcome you. We're delighted to have you. We appreciate the tremendous work that you continue to do, not just in Akron, but all throughout Northeast Ohio. So please come and share with us.
Well, thank you, Steve, for that introduction. It's great to, again, be with everyone today. And I'm particularly glad to hear you introduce Katie, who agreed to come with me today. And, you know, for those of you that haven't met Katie, she's brilliant. She's a great leader in this community, a great friend, a real champion for the city of Akron, and just recently came off a gallant job as the chair of the Portage Rocker Music Festival. So if anyone who came down and enjoyed Portage Rocker, you had a chance to see some of Katie's work. So
thank you.
I asked Katie to join me today because she's such an expert in the work of the food bank where the mission is concerned. Certainly coming off this pandemic, which has been, you know, such a huge disruption and change in so many of our lives. You know, the work of the food bank is, I think, been front and center, I think, in a lot of people's minds, as we've seen these shots of, you know, food distributions in parking lots all around the country. And we did a lot of those here at our food bank. Some of you may have even come to volunteer and help with that. And Katie organized so many of those. And so my plan for this time today, first off, is to be respectful of your time. I love the food bank. I mean, I love it. It's been a life's work of great privilege for me to be in close contact with people who need services that I identify with so much just on a personal level. I don't know. I think the longer you do a job like this, the more you come to realize that you're just not dropping in on people's lives, sprinkling goodness dust. You're really being richly blessed by them it's really better to give than it is to receive. And I've just come to really learn that. And so the work of the food bank is fascinating to me. The mission is fascinating to me. And I think that that saying, the compassion of the afflicted, comes to mind, you know, oftentimes when I talk about the work. I care very much about the Rotary Club. As I said earlier, in 2003, when I first came to this community, I joined the Rotary Club and I had a chance to meet many of you. But before that, when my career first started, I joined the Optimist Club in Davison, Michigan, where I first learned what service clubs were and learned about the way that they can be great introductions to professional networking and getting to know people and getting involved and learning how board governance works and so many things. And in this job, I'm fortunate to have a lot of people come and seek me out now for career advice. And I always recommend that they join the Rotary Club or some kind of a service club. I've benefited from it tremendously, and I have a ton of respect for all of you. So I guess with that, I can kind of move into a little report about what's happening down at the food bank. Now, most of you have been to the food bank before, and it's my plan to provide a quick overview of the work that we do, because most of you are familiar with it anyway, to keep it high and tight. And then I want to kind of drill down into some specifics about local food insecurity, and then share about some of our recent programmatic initiatives. And Katie's going to help me as we go. We have a little video that we want to show you, and hopefully we can get the technology to work right, of some really powerful images some of you may have seen from our pandemic response, particularly with the Ohio National Guard. And so obviously, you know, we've always worked hard to get the message out and to come and talk to as many people as we can and visit as many businesses as we can. And, you know, as you said, Steve, we've had a great deal of growth. And it's really a testimony to two things. One, the scope of the problem. The food insecurity is a significant problem in people's lives. The significance of the availability of surplus food, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And then, of course, the tremendous philanthropic culture that we enjoy here in Northeast Ohio that so faithfully supported our work. And so last year we had our record year in any regard, our biggest food distribution year ever of 37 million pounds of food. And let me tell you, in 97, when I first started food banking, there may have been one or two food banks in the country in major markets, maybe the LA Food Bank and maybe New York, that did 30 million pounds of food in food distribution in a year. It wasn't something that was done. And when I moved to this community in 2003, I always kind of had that number out there. Well, you know, we've been running after food security pretty hard. We've got a pretty good idea how many people need food, you know, and where to put it. And I had a pretty good sense that if we could get 30 million pounds of food through our infrastructure, we'd be pretty close to having some semblance of equilibrium between the amount of food that we provide and the amount of demand that existed out in the region. To see ourselves hit 37 million pounds of food last year while we had unprecedented lines, to me, signaled a couple things. One, that we've come a long way in our realization of the potential and capacity, certainly in the availability of surplus food donations. But yet that there's so many fluctuations in demand as we have, you know, a crisis like we had in the pandemic, as they're having right now in southern Louisiana in the you know, wake of the Ida hurricane. Things can happen that trigger food insecurity really, really quickly. And without the infrastructure in place to respond to that when the disaster strikes, you're not ready. And that food that's getting shipped into warehouses to go to people in need is heading to somebody else's community. And it's always been my hope that we could build enough infrastructure here so that we could get that food, that we could bring it to our warehouse and that we could distribute it. A couple of things about the nature of the work that I want to talk about here real quick, and then we'll move things along to this video. But most food banks now have become the largest human service agency in the area that they serve. In 2020, like I said, we distributed 37 million pounds of food. And the retail value of that food was over $45 million. So last year, over 270,000 people across 8 counties of Northeast Ohio received over $45 million worth of food for free last year through this ministry. And the primary reason that we can do that is because of the tremendous volume and value of food that's available to distribute, the significant scope of interest around the issue of food insecurity, the unique ways that the food bank infrastructure can be leveraged to support a wide variety of logistical solutions around food, and certainly the ways that food programs can be leveraged to provide services that address root causes of poverty. And this is something that we talk a lot about, and that Katie's going to talk a little bit more about later. When the food banks were first started in the late 60s, and it was the period of post-war industrialization around the nation's food supply. And it was just really arriving at scale. If you think back to the late 60s, the national interstate system was newly built, and manufactured foods were available nationwide like they never have been before. The centralization of production meant the centralization of food surplus. So when all the food's being made in plants instead of in dozens and dozens of gardens and farms all around the country, the surplus that emerges arrives at scale. And so there was an enormous runway when food banks first started in the late 60s for food banks to discover in the realization of surplus food. Capturing food surpluses and giving them to charities that feed people in need is the central role of most food banks around the country, certainly ours here in Akron, and it's their primary work. And as more scale and logistical expertise has been built around that model of surplus food distribution, federal and state governments have been bringing forward contracts to food banks because they see them as a helpful partner in the distribution of commodities and agricultural clearance programs. And the combination of private food donations from Smuckers and Kellogg's and Kraft and Nabisco, along with surplus food clearance programs from the government around commodities, have really helped supply the scale that our country's food banks currently operate in. Certainly during the COVID-19 pandemic, the role of food banks in providing food relief has become really evident in the public's consciousness. And I think probably you've all seen shots of the long lines of cars at parking lots around the country, at the Cleveland Muni lot, and certainly again at our parking lot here in Akron. And the need for food really surged in 2020. And we've worked like we never have before. And I'm tremendously proud of our response throughout the pandemic. And rather than list off a whole bunch of statistics, I wanted to take a moment and play a video for all of you that will give you a real sense of what's been happening down at the food banks. So now I need to attempt to click over to my PowerPoint presentation, and then I have to share my screen, right? I have to go to slideshow. Sorry, everybody. Katie's helping me.
Oh, but I got it.
Click on that. And then
let's
go play from start. And then I need to go back over to,
Oh, you're not sharing your screen with them.
I'm
yet,
going to
though.
go
Yeah,
over
there
to
we
do my
go.
screen share. Click on
That green arrow, and then make sure that it has, when you choose the option. Oh,
You see my mouse?
no, I don't. There you go. Maybe.
I think that's it. All participants.
Yeah.
My mouse just disappeared. Sorry, everybody. I'll just skip it because it's not working.
Weird. Oh yeah, but
It's not a touch screen.
Yeah. It's
Well,
not letting us
everybody,
share
we're
our
having
screen.
technical problems. We have a really cool video, but maybe we can post it. My mouse legit just vanished. And so I do not know how to get this going. I'm not even sure I can get this thing off my screen. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we just do.
Okay.
And if you send it to Terry with the PowerPoint, he can send it to the whole chapter.
Oh, here. So now it's saying we can share. So
Mhm.
let's try again.
Try
Yeah.
it now, Dan.
Hmm?
Try it now.
And then you should be able to hit like that.
If I hit share screen,
There we go.
and then
And then
maybe I can tab over.
maybe.
That
Oh
could
wait,
be
and then hit
it.
share sound.
And hit share sound. So there is no mouse though.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. It's embarrassing to not have this stuff work like you want it to. I'm just gonna oh, it's here now.
Oh, there we go. And hit.
Share sound?
Yep.
I
and
think
then
we're
hit
rolling.
Share.
And then I'm gonna hit
Bottom
share.
right.
Something happened.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, because you're on your Apple.
Okay, let's just skip this.
No
Well, that was-
worries, no worries.
that
We're
was good.
highly flexible, highly flexible.
Well, so we had this really cool video of all these lines of cars going down Barches Street. When we first went into the pandemic back in March of 2020, everybody obviously was freaking out, and we were all worried about whether we were going to get sick. Back in those early days of the pandemic, there was no clearance on masks. And so we just started setting, and during the shutdown, we stayed open. And I think we all kind of had to face this, like, okay, we're doing this no matter what happens. And we started setting up these food distributions in parking lots. And the National Guard came and joined us, and they worked with us for a year. They just left at the beginning of July. And we did like 1,000 deliveries on these LMTV National Guard trucks at places all over the region during the last year. And I've never been so proud of the work we did doing that. We set up the system so that we could move cars through. And I think on our biggest day, we had like 1,800 families come through this distribution. A lot of the food that we distribute, pretty much all of it, is distributed through soup kitchens and homeless shelters and food pantries. Our customers primarily are 500 soup kitchens, homeless shelters, and food pantries across 8 counties: Medina, Summit, Portage, Wayne, Stark, Tuscarawas, Carroll, and Holmes. And, early in the pandemic, we had a number of them close. A number of them, of course, most of them are faith-based. And with a lot of churches closed and a lot of volunteers running these pantries, the status of our emergency food network was something that we were very concerned about in the beginning of the pandemic. And it still remains a concern today about what's going to happen with a lot of these churches and programs. But, we pushed a lot of food out into the community doing these parking lot food distributions. And that's what the video was going to show you, some of these activities. And it also had a little bit of information about food insecurity and the amount of food insecurity that exists in the region. And I think I'll just step back and hand that now to you, Katie, to give a little overview about, what's happening with food insecurity.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me. It's nice to see all your faces on Zoom and meet you, if at least virtually. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about food insecurity, which is basically the lack of regular access to safe and nutritious food for an individual or a family. So I'll go through that, and then we'll leave some time at the end for questions. So I'm keeping track of the time here. So in the food bank's 8-county service area, the counties that Dan just listed off, typically 1 in 7 people in our community are food insecure. They, basically don't know where their next meal is coming from or whether or not they have enough resources to ensure that they have a safe and nutritious meal to have. And that is about 1 in 6 children. So if you think of kids going back to school, 1 in 6 kids in a classroom don't have enough food for themselves or, the other people in their family. When we look at Summit County specifically, it's about 75,000 people that live in our community that may work alongside you, that may be your neighbor, that are struggling to make ends meet. And again, may not have enough resources to ensure that their family has food on the table. And that's about 22,000 children in Summit County, so right in our backyard. When we think about food insecurity and how...
Here's Katie's slides.
There we go.
So there's her slide right there, and then I'll do the next slide.
All right. So food insecurity is an ever-shifting state. People come in and out of food insecurity, perhaps because they lost a job or their car broke down and they needed to pay for that. So food insecurity shifts over the course of the year, and it certainly shifted as a result of the pandemic. On my right, so perhaps your left, in 2019, food insecurity was about 190,000 individuals in our 8-county service area were experiencing food insecurity at some point in the year. And that spiked to almost 270,000 as an estimate in the course of the pandemic. So a spike of nearly 100,000 more individuals experiencing food insecurity. If you think back to that time, like Dan was talking about, when so many of us didn't know what was going to happen, we knew that schools were closing and kids were going home to learn online in formats like this. We knew that restaurants were closing, people were losing their jobs. I recall I was at home on a Thursday night and I got a call at 6 o'clock from somebody from Akron Public Schools. And they said, tomorrow's the last day of school for the kids. How many kids can you get food to tomorrow? And so we worked overnight and packed bags throughout the day to ensure that we could get bags of food to as many kids as possible, because nobody knew when they were coming back. At the time, they thought maybe they'd be gone for a month, and they experienced an entire year basically of school at home. And so it spiked significantly. What we're seeing now as businesses have reopened and various government benefits have been dispersed, we're seeing that trend downward. But if I had to give the elevator speech version of our work, it's that food insecurity existed before the pandemic, and unfortunately it's going to exist after, and it may look different and our response may look different, but 200,000 people in our community without regular access to nourishing food is still too many, even if it's less than it was in 2020. So something for us to be mindful of. And there were a lot of things that we learned in the course of the pandemic about what resources we had available, about how we could collaborate differently throughout the community and with partners like maybe, some of you on this call here, and ways that we could leverage resources differently, that we were more resilient than sometimes we as a community give ourselves credit for. And so one of those examples some of you may have heard of was a relationship with United Way and with DoorDash. And early in the pandemic, DoorDash and United Way reached out and said, we know that people are needing to stay home. They may be quarantining or isolating at home. They may be at risk and need to, stay home. but it's hard to get food to people when they can't leave their house or they're afraid to do that. And so DoorDash paid for their DoorDash drivers to pick up charitable food from the food bank and from multiple partner sites throughout our 8-county service area and deliver it directly to people's homes. So if they were quarantining or isolating, even if they are now, we were able to get food directly to their doorstep.
That was a really cool program, I think, getting DoorDash going.
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about like equity, programs that can make for more equitable access. And I think when you look at people having to oftentimes take a bus, there are people that take their wheelchairs to our food distributions. And oftentimes it can be very inconvenient and difficult for them to arrive. And our introduction of DoorDash to bring food directly to people's house really felt like equity to us. And didn't we do like 1,000? What was the number?
We've done more than 15,000 DoorDash deliveries.
Yeah, so we have delivered food boxes to more than 15,000 houses since the pandemic started. And we recently got a grant to continue that.
We did. DoorDash has approached us to continue that partnership. And so we'll be continuing that and looking, to Dan's point, at equity, looking at where program availability exists. Are there transportation barriers? Are there potentially language barriers? We've also worked with Akron Children's Hospital to really increase the utilization of DoorDash for some of their patients that may have children at home. And to Dan's point, if you lack access to your own transportation or having to take the bus with 3 kids in tow to get charitable food, that can be a difficult experience. And so we want to meet people where they are. And yeah.
And one of the things that we've talked about a lot over the years has been client choice. So when people come to a food pantry, like during the pandemic, it was less than ideal because of the way we kept distance with them. We made pre-made boxes, but we've always advocated for clients to be able to choose the food. And so we have a new project called this Order Ahead project. This is a really cool project about food order. Can you talk about Order Ahead?
Yes, that was my next, meeting people where they are innovation. So Feeding America, of which we're a member, as Dan mentioned earlier, created an online ordering system for charitable food. So it's basically like Instacart. So you can go to the food bank's website if you're in need of charitable food assistance, and you can order online. And it shows items in our inventory, and people can select what they want and come and pick it up. So currently, Dan and I are sitting at our new Stark County campus, and we're utilizing that system here. We did utilize it in the course of the pandemic using DoorDash, and we were the only food bank in the country pairing that online ordering system with home delivery. And now again, we're being innovative, and we're the only food bank in the country using this system both online as a pickup option and also as a kiosk model. So if somebody doesn't have the internet at home or they're not comfortable with technology, they can walk into our building and use the ordering system as a kiosk, and we'll walk them through it and we'll pack their order for them. And I've shown a lot of people, the first question I ask when they walk in the pantry to place their order is, have you ever ordered anything online before? Because it looks like any other online ordering system. And a number of people will tell me, oh no, I've never done that before. And I said, well, you're about to. You're gonna learn something new today. You're gonna order something online, and it's gonna be great. And so it's really, really easy. We have a touch screen and people can choose what they want. Or again, if they have access to the internet at home, they're welcome to order it ahead of time, and then they can come here and pick up their box. It's already ready for them to go. In addition, we have some other partnerships that we've created in our new Stark County campus. When we looked at the neighborhood where our new campus is, we're on the site of a former grocery store, and we wanted to be sensitive to that reality and the void that a grocery store leaving a community can create. And so we spent a lot of time with the neighborhood. I'm known as Food Bank Lady now. When I walk around, they like yell at me and say, hey, Food Bank Lady, and like wave at me because we walked and knocked on every single door within a few mile radius multiple times. And we hosted events, and we asked them questions about what they would like in addition to food, because we recognize that if a family's in need of food assistance, they may be in need of other supports as well. And we want to leverage our new building as a community asset to bring resources together and again, meet people where they are. And so we forged 5 partnerships informed by neighbor feedback. And those are with community legal aid, offering free legal assistance, which includes potential issues around bankruptcy or landlord-tenant resolution of issues, those sorts of things. We have a partnership with Altman Health and their Wellness on Wheels initiative, where they provide healthcare resources, blood pressure screenings, et cetera. We have a partnership with Goodwill working on workforce development, trying to connect people to the skills they need to get gainful employment. We have a partnership with Stark County Thrive and the Canton City Health Department, working with new or expectant mothers to ensure their health and the health of their children, and Stark County Job and Family Services to help with benefits assistance. And we're learning a lot down here. And as we look to the second phase of our capital campaign, where we'll be expanding our Akron facility, and hopefully many of you will be able to come and see it, we hope to forge similar partnerships in our Akron building as we expand and add a pantry to that building. And our goal with our pantries is to be innovative in the charitable food space, which are two terms that don't always go together. I think a lot of people, when they think of a pantry, think of, their local church offering a box, and pantries can be more than that. And our network certainly already is. Michelle mentioned earlier, Forever Our Children. We have amazing programs like hers throughout our 8-county service area, trying new things and being innovators and supporters in their community. And we want to be able to try new things so that we can leverage those learnings to support the entirety of our network. So that's a bit of the work that we're doing here.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
So Katie does a fantastic job, and I'm really excited about the ways that we can leverage some of these programmatic offerings to get a little bit further into some root causes of poverty. People will come for food, and I've said for a long time, it's like a ticket into admission into people's lives. You can help folks address a lot of different problems in their lives when they come for food. It has an economic value. When people come to get a bag of groceries, it's going to save them money. Fighting poverty in that regard, certainly addressing food insecurity, and then, connecting them to other resources that can help get at some of those other root causes. So we really do see that very much as the future of our work. Our mission being and remaining very much focused on food, but increasingly on the pairing of food. And I know, Dr. McGregor, we've had a lot of conversations about, food pharmacies and, doing work together in a medical context. And we've got funding in place that we're going to start experimenting with other models. Again, we see it as the future of the work. But really, at the end of the day, it all comes down to people. Folks, just like all of us that struggle, folks that live close to the line, and folks that can get easily, sent into situations where they need to ask for help. And I guess the one last thing that I wanted to mention today, and Katie kind of trailed off with it there, is that we are getting ready to do an expansion in Akron. From our facility, but we are currently in our Canton facility now. In 2015, we did a strategic plan, and we've always wanted to have a facility, a site in Canton for a number of reasons. One, because some of our biggest charities drive up from Dover, Tuscarawas County, Carroll County, fight traffic on the Central Interchange to get to our Akron warehouse quite regularly. And we've always known that if we could take that food closer to them, we could save them a ton of time and money. And there's a lot more impact, that we could get in terms of leveraging volunteerism and volunteer operations here in another community. And so we decided that we would undertake the construction of a new building here. Katie mentioned we got the Fisher Food Store on Cherry Avenue. We acquired that in 2017, conducted a capital campaign, and throughout the pandemic, while we were standing in parking lots, we were coming to this one and overseeing the construction of this building. We cut the ribbon on this brand new purpose-built food bank, the newest food bank in the country, on July 1st. And I've been saying it's either the finest or the most recently built food bank in the country, is what I say. But it's probably a little bit of both. I'll show you around here real quick, just to give you a little tour here. This behind me is the warehouse from the conference room Katie and I are in. It's 45,000 square feet. And here we are in the conference room in the front of the building. I'll just show you the lobby and then we'll stop for questions. And if anybody wants to drop a question in the comments while I'm taking this thing around, do so and I'll jump in and catch it. So this is the lobby space. If you've been to our Akron facility, you probably will notice a lot of similar things. This corrugated steel behind me is kind of a silo effect. Borrowing from the agricultural theme, the catwalk and the stairs look very similar to the catwalk and stairs. And check this out. Michael Wilson's mom and dad are here for a tour. Hi, you guys. You guys know and love Michael. So the pallet wood here was donated by Tri-County Pallets. They are located in Akron. They're our pallet vendor, and they stripped all this pallet wood down off of pallets for us and gave it to us. And our contractor put it up on the wall, and that's got a really, really cool look to it. I'll show you a couple more things, and then we'll wrap it up. We put a community room down here, and anybody that wants to come and host a group or come and volunteer can use this space. This is our community room, and we could accommodate about 200 people in here. And then I want to show you our volunteer room, and I'll shut up. So this is where we moved our food box production line. We weren't in the food box making business before the pandemic. But since then, we scaled and we made 20,000 food boxes at least in the course of the last year. We run the line every day. Making food boxes, and so we're doing that down here in our Canton warehouse. So that's it, and I'm going to see a question here. Danny, Katie.
Hey, before we go to questions, one comment here, because for protocol, what I'd like to do is I will officially end the meeting here in a second, but I want to ask you, Dan, if you and Katie would be able to stay on for maybe 15 minutes to handle questions. Is that
Sure.
something? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna, for protocol's sake, I'm gonna sound the bell here. But in leading into that, here's what I wanted to say to us collectively, because I know some of you need to get off. We are exceptionally blessed to have an organization like the Akron-Canton Foodbank here in our backyard. And Dan, you talked about the joy you feel about going to work. And I'll tell you, when I drive by your facility, because I've been in there when you were having the massive distribution and our club showed up with 20, 25 people to help in that process. It had something to do with orange is what you guys call it, orange something, but that was so much fun. But every time I drive by that facility, I feel your joy. And so you guys have a contagious spirit in what you're doing. And for you to be named one of the best places in the area to work says a lot about that spirit of joy. So thank you. I'm going to officially end the meeting, and then those who want to stay on, feel free to stay on. So the meeting is officially adjourned, and we'll go into questions.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Dan, this is Dave Hall. Jack Herrick has, I think, a comment he'd like to start off with before we jump into questions.
For everybody online, Vivian and I are, our home church is Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Akron, and they have a food ministry called DLM. So we've had a chance to see the interaction with the food bank. DLM, Darlene Katz, who is administering it, does the same thing that they're doing on a macro basis, on a mini basis out of the church, packaging foods that's tailored to the needs of and wants of the family. And the support of the food bank to that group is just exemplary. But the thing that I had a chance to volunteer for a few weeks, picking up food and taking it back to the church. And Dan's staff are some of the most extraordinary people that you will ever meet. They don't miss a beat, whether it's a forklift driver that is moving a pallet within 2 inches of another pallet and dropping it on a truck for you, or helping you get things in order, the order bank, the order rooms, the order forms, everything is just greased so slick. Dan, thanks to your staff.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, we take a lot of pride in that. You know, my wife tells me that I need to take my OCD to work, and I do. That's it. She's like, I don't want that OCD around here, but I'll stick around and straighten pallets all night if you let me. And there's no doubt about it. I saw a question in the chat regarding Forever Children from Michelle. And
yeah,
if Michelle
kind of wraparound service she's asking about, you know, there's a lot of other organizations in town that have need of your services and are trying to provide it and recreate the wheel. So she kind of wondered what other partnerships you had with other area organizations?
Well, I tell you, she's onto a central point at nonprofits because there's always going to be somebody that comes to the table with an idea that you should be doing something other than what you've been doing. And I have to say, it happens to me all the time. People will seek me out, come to my office and pitch a program to me that they'd like for us to do and scale. And if I don't jump on the idea, sometimes they think it's because I don't care about hungry people enough. I mean, there's going to be pressure in this work to get out of your lane. It's just a fact. You know, so I think that's why I think you have to figure out which cog in the wheel you're going to be, and then, you know, provide referrals. It works out for us. The way we've approached it is that we are the food people. Come to us, come get the food. But even getting a food pantry at this Canton building, Katie and I went back and forth about it because I've always been, hey, we provide food to charities. We don't do the food distribution. So it was a very debated move for us strategically. But one, I'm glad that we did. Certainly, I'm glad I listened to Katie about these parking lot food distributions because I think that really hit the spot. For us, it's about pairing food distribution with other services, not providing the service ourselves. That's my advice to forever children. Yeah, if you're, you know, or whatever, figure out what your main thing is, and then try to bring other people in to add on. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I do want to mention first, Jack, just thank you for your comments about DLM. I've had the pleasure of going and seeing the pantry over at Holy Trinity Lutheran, and they just do really tremendous work and are such sweet people. So just thank you for being a volunteer of theirs. Please send our thanks and our love to everyone that runs that program. We're really appreciative of everything that they do and everyone that they help. Michelle, I think to your question about what resources I would recommend, I think something that is important and sometimes a step that we forget in the process of nonprofits is to ask the people that we seek to help what it is that they need.
Yeah.
We oftentimes make assumptions about maybe they don't know how to cook healthy meals, or maybe they need X or Y, right? But they're the experts of their own experience. And so I think that, you know, each community and each population may have different needs, and those needs may shift over time. And so I think, you know, a short, easy to take survey, or even anecdotally, you know, when they're picking up their bag or something, say, hey, you know, what else could we do for you? You know, those little conversations or something more formal like a survey may help you go a long way. And I'm happy to share examples of the survey questions we used when we were considering what partnerships we would forge in the facility here. But I think listening is always really important. And so, you know, happy to make any connections that we could based on, you know, the data that you get back from the people that you serve. The other thing that we're doing, we also forge them to be shorter term partnerships because the needs of the community may change. So we want to go with a continuous feedback loop. If we asked the community 3 years ago and they said they needed something like community legal aid, maybe their needs have changed now. And so we want to leave room for continuous improvement and meeting the needs of the community as they shift. So I think giving yourself room to forge those partnerships as they're needed for the people that you're seeking to help.
One of the things I just wanted to add really quick here that since our organization works with so many organizations in the community, so I'm familiar with like this organization's specialty is this one's specialty is this. But I also know, and I'm sure during COVID, they probably weren't able to do it, but there's the coalition of groups that work with the homeless that once a year they would do a special weekend where they would provide specialty services, and it would tap into a lot of these different areas like the mental health, the physical health, the, you know, food and insecurity, et cetera. So I imagine there's somewhere out there where there is like a master resource list. And that's what I'm trying to get to that point where is there a master resource list so that master resource list would not need to be recreated. That could be like a go-to master resource that that they could use to reference. So yeah.
You know, Michelle, I have seen over the years so many initiatives related to, you know, information aggregation related to services. You know, I think the one that I've seen that works the best is the Akron Street Card. Just simply, it's easy to print, it's easy to hand out, it can be updated. But I've seen a tremendous amount of time and effort gone into these things, and these charities, so many of them go out of business.
Yeah, they change.
It's hard. So I'm always kind of like, well, I'll go out and ask somebody who's in front of me what it is that they need, and then I'll figure out how to get it for them. And I can write that down after a few phone calls. It just feels like it's more efficient than trying to get all that information together up front. Really in Summit County, we're lucky, 211.
Right.
If you just have somebody call 211, there's a good chance they're going to get plugged in with what they need. And we've got great infrastructure where mental health, stuff like that is concerned too, through the ADM board and other charities, so anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd suggest United Way's 211. Everything is always as good as the day it's printed. And so the street card is a great resource, but it's as good as the time that they produced it, and they only update it annually. So I would suggest United Way 211 as your first stop.
All right, thank you.
And to your point, Dan and Katie, it's all about relationship, and you guys are highly relational, and that keeps a fluidity. It's constantly moving. And when you start putting together lists like this, which I know because sometimes we'd like to have something of that nature, it can become rather static. And as you said, things can change pretty abruptly. So the fluidity and the connection of relationship is the crucial component.
I think one of the things with the 211 line, though, again, before I retired 4 years ago, I know I would get every year, or every 6 months, I would get something from United Way and the 211 line to update the data, so that it was a constant refreshment from that. And then some of my students in my social work classes I taught, they were familiar and they got familiarized that 211 even exists from that standpoint. But one of the things I wanted to say is that I think, and I don't know if Community Support Services is still using the food bank. I'm guessing they are for their group homes. And but when we became a federally qualified health center, one of the things that was really beneficial for us was some of the commodities that we got that was from a nutritional standpoint for outpatient, because so many of our clients did not eat the most nutritious meals. And for them to be actually able to get some of the stuff there and help them knowing how they could fix a meal nutritiously, and by getting stuff, going to the food pantries, et cetera, from that. So, for me, that was a godsend for, I think, when we were able to expand into that portion. We've been doing the group homes for a long time, but that was really good, I think, from that. And so just that working relationship has been really good. And then I chaired the emergency food and shelter program for United Way for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I can't remember her name now, who is the representative from the food bank.
Colleen.
Yeah. And how we really worked with a lot of the organizations to use the food bank as that matching piece rather than getting the money themselves, because the money could go a lot further. You guys could purchase a lot more. So it is that collaboration that really has worked great, I think, to benefit everybody.
Right.
Yeah, and I have tons of respect to you too, Terry, for your great leadership over the years. And it's interesting. Sometimes I think when people think of the food bank, they think of the food pantry or somebody who's hungry. But if you really look at that agency list, you've got partners that are getting food from the food bank, that are working with people that, at domestic violence shelters, at mental health providers, at any kind of agencies for kids, where food is it's barely a slice of what they do. We've got some soup kitchens that are getting most of their food from us, and they run a food program. But I would say a large portion of our network, they're not in the food business. They're in some other type of charity, but food is a part of what they do. And we're able to make a significant buffering to their budget and also help with the nutritional stuff too. So any other questions? I see some folks jumping off.
Just a lot of congratulations, thank yous. Great presentation. Love the new facility. Just a question on the facility. In comparison to Akron, how big's that Canton facility?
About half the size.
About half, okay.
Yeah.
It
costs us more.
Yeah, and so in wrapping it up here today, hearty thank you to the two of you. That was a fabulous presentation. We do so appreciate having you in our backyard here and all of the reach that you have and the impact. And per our meeting from a few months ago, we're going to be doubling back with you, and we're going to be setting up some type of a connection with our club officially to be involved in some of that distribution, because you had shared when we were together last time that was kind of a pretty big need that there were places and gaps in time that you needed a little bit of help in. And so we'll sit down with you, we'll compare notes and see how we can be part of the solution. And besides, and you guys know, because this is the world you live in, you always, that give and receive, you get more in the receiving from any giving that you do. It's just like a heavenly principle or something, you know?
Yep.
So.
Well, this was fun today. Tons of love. You guys, I appreciate you sticking around and chatting with us for a little bit. And we look forward to coming back and giving you an update. And actually, Steve, you know, when I get that invitation, I'll come down there and lead you guys in a song. We'll sing a couple good ones together. Just some songs everybody knows, something fun. As long as Jack will sing with me. I know Jack will sing with me.
We look forward to that. So thank you guys very, very much. Have a wonderful day. God bless you and all the best.
Okay, I'm gonna mention one more thing before everybody signs off. I'm also part of Akron Area Interfaith Council, and they do a food walk every year. And I think that Rotary should partner with them this next spring. That is actually the biggest check, the biggest donation that comes in every year to the Akron Food Bank. And they do it between Akron and Canton. It brings together all faith groups throughout the whole region to do a one-day food walk that raises money for the food bank. So I throw that out as a challenge that we partner with the Akron Area Interfaith Council and be part of their fundraising this next year.
Great idea.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right.
Hey, Dan and Katie, if you want to send me that link, I can have, when Cheryl puts the newsletter together, she can connect that. So anyone that wants to be able to see what you have there, we do it that way.
That sounds good.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks again. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.